Everything I'm about to say, you already know it to be true. You are a slave. You are a slave to money, to social economics, to status, to politics, to ideology. You have sold your soul to have a place in a world order that you should naturally oppose. Lately, I've been really trying to get y'all to understand as Black Americans why we are where we are. We are where we are because of our leaders. There is a clip floating around right now by this young brother. I got to figure out, I got to lock the channel in my mind. But he has a short out right now where this African scholar is going in on Alex Haley and Roots.
Somebody should have said this about the Roots movie a long time ago.
Still got Roots, people thinking that Roots has had something to do with history when the man says a novel. People naming their children Kente Conte and Conte Kente and all kind of thing now. With these people,
you take issue with that? You find something wrong?
Yeah, it's garbage. It has nothing to do with history.
Are you calling
It's
Roots,
a novel.
Roots, the most popular television show in the history
Amos
of
and
this
Andy
country?
was the most popular radio show. And it had nothing to do with black people, it were two white Jews. You know, there's such, as I told you, the worst part of our enslavement is not the shackle on the hand, it's the shackle on the mind.
The movie was a novel, and one of the main reasons we bought into this out of Africa theory.
Saying that it was a novel, that thing has nothing to do with history, that is not factual, but you got black people around here naming their children Kunta Kinte and all this crazy stuff. He's saying this stuff had nothing to do with history. It is not historic in any sense. And the dude follows up, the dude with that put the short on, he follows up and said, you see, and the crazy thing is that this is where we buy into this whole out of Africa theory. We are not from Africa. We are indigenous Americans. But do you know who pushed that down our throats? Black people. Alex Haley's a black man. And when I tell y'all that we have been our own worst enemy, our leaders, our elite aspirants, the black people that want to be the ambassadors between us and white society, they have been our biggest enemies since the formation of this damn country. Because the problem is a lot of these people have been accredited by the mainstream or accepted in some capacity by the mainstream as being controlled opposition. You see, the mainstream society doesn't mind having the appearance of opposition as long as they can control what that opposition is going to say. Well, when you get people like Jesse Jackson up front, you know what he's going to say. When you get people like Minister Farrakhan, there was probably a time when they didn't know what he was going to say. But over the decades, he's proven to stay within a certain framework. So now he's basically controlled opposition. He is not going to actually push black people in any direction that's going to take them out of the grasp of this devil. He's not going to do it. So he's now controlled opposition, and they don't mind these types of leaders, right? They don't mind Cornel West. They don't mind Dr. Umar Johnsons. They don't mind these kinds of people being a loudmouth like Dr. Umar Johnson. They're not bothered by that kind of dude. That dude is not going to ever do anything positive for black people, and they know it. Because, I mean, if he really wanted to be for the people, there was no need to go to and get what, he got 5 degrees he brag on? He wouldn't have spent all those years in white folks university getting indoctrinated by white folks' version of history and white folks' versions of facts, and then he come back and use that to angrily become our leader. Nah, man, he's controlled opposition. And this is one of the reasons why they teach Africana studies and all this stuff in universities, because they want to control these kinds of Negroes. Because these are going to be the Negroes that come out into our so-called community and assume the position of authority over us. And we're going to accept it. We're going to accept it because they have a doctor before their name. They have PhD behind their name. They have MA behind their name. So we're gonna capitulate to their assumed authority, and white folks know it. And then what happens is you have a leader now in place that has basically been created by white society. That's all of these dudes are. And that's all I've been trying to get y'all to see. Y'all taking it as if I'm taking a shot at your buddy or something. I'm only here as a big brother trying to talk to us, because we got to understand that these people are not qualified to be our leaders. In fact, the very fact that they go through that system and everything they know about being black is given to them by that system should disqualify them from even talking on our behalf. We should not want anybody that's been raised up by this system to be our leader. And this is my only point. I'm just trying to get y'all to see the facts, man. This is not me hating on nobody. A lie is easy to create, but debunking a lie takes way more time, energy, effort, etc. And this is something that the liars have always known. You know, I think they said it was Hitler's, one of his strategists, right, that said that you tell big lies and you tell them often. You know, if you tell big lies and you tell them often, what you do is you beat down people's natural defense to the lie. Your rational brain would tell you that nobody has the audacity to lie that big, so there must be some truth in it. But the truth is, no, they just got the audacity to lie that big. And this is how black leaders get a lot of y'all. Y'all think that these people will not tell lies that big, like slavery. You would think that that's such a big issue that no way these black leaders will be lying about us being African slaves. Yes, they will. Yes, they do. And yes, they have. Period. It's a lie. Because what I do know is when they talk about all this slave history, the America that existed back then, the rest of this so-called country as it is today was not a part of America back then. But we were all dealing with Europeans. Some of us are dealing with the Portuguese. Some of us are dealing with the French. Some of us are dealing with the Spaniards. But the only place where you had that so-called slave history was under the British, on the British colonies. And they were all on the far East Coast when that stuff was going on. So every time they bring up this history in the 1700s and the early 1800s, well, 90% of what is America today wasn't America back then when that was happening. But we had black people all over this place. Now, this is something that you can learn very easily from just opening up a map. I mean, the lies are self-evident, but you will never believe what you see because you are believing what they tell you, your so-called leaders. Then you are believing what they tell you because they have been educated. They have the accolades. They are now qualified. They should know best, but they don't. They have been indoctrinated. There is a difference. There is a difference. Indoctrination is not the same as education. Learning is not the same as conditioning. Understand that. So you will ignore all of the contradictions in their story. Even a new Bass Reeves TV show that's out right now, right? The Lone Ranger. First of all, for decades, they made you believe the Lone Ranger was a white boy. They never wanted to admit that most cowboys were black. See, they got to explain that too. Because the so-called cowboys was in the Wild Wild West, and the Wild Wild West did not start where y'all think it started. If you look at that map, the West started just west of the so-called British colonies. And if you look at Bass Reeves, he spoke Seminole, which means he was actually a Seminole Indian. They don't want to admit that. He was never a slave. They wrote all that in. They wrote all this stuff in just to try to explain certain things that we know about him after they had to actually admit that the Lone Ranger was a black man. They did The Harder They Fall. The brothers did The Harder They Fall, the little Western, the cowboy movie, right? After they had to admit that most of these figures in the so-called West were black people. Now they're saying, well, yeah, in truth, about 25% of the cowboys were black. Nah, they lying. About 25% were not black. That's the fact. That's the fact. About 25% were not black. But anyway, I won't get to that. The point is, though, you will ignore all of the obvious contradictions in their lives because your leaders are holding on to those lies. You won't drop it because Yvette Cornell won't drop it, because Antonio Moore won't drop it. That's why you won't drop it. You won't drop it because Jason Black won't drop it, or because Dr. Claude Anderson won't drop it. That's why you won't drop it. You won't drop it because Dr. Umar Johnson won't drop it, because Minister Louis Farrakhan won't drop it. This is why you won't drop it. You won't drop it because all of the conditioned and indoctrinated so-called black leaders that now serve as controlled opposition, you don't drop things or question things because they are not allowing you to. And they are propped up in front of us. They are placed on the news. They are placed on television. Who picked these people? We don't know these people until we see them on TV. And all of a sudden they speaking on our behalf. They got books written on our behalf. Come on, man. And they speak for us all. Now we don't have no kind of individual autonomy to say, hey man, that don't represent my history or my story or my ancestry. We don't have the right to say that, because the second I say that on YouTube, I get attacked by blacks. We have become our own jailers, our own gatekeepers. We are it. We are the slave patrol. We are it. We jump on each other if we step out of line. The white man don't have to do it. Dane Calloway don't be online arguing with white folks about whether or not we had indigenous blacks in America. He be arguing with pro-blacks that came out of institutions. Brother Ali over there, he don't be on there arguing with white folks of whether or not we are the indigenous population of the world. He be on there arguing with black people that came from the institutions. Why even argue against it? Why would a black person even take it upon himself to want to refute that not all of us came from Africa, which I don't believe none of us did, but let's stop there. Let's just back up and say maybe on that slither over there in the far east coast, maybe some did come from Africa as slaves. But why would a black man that's supposed to love black people, or a black woman that's supposed to love black people, why would they take it upon themselves to refute and reject and beat down any evidence that we were here long before white folks came? Which, if you my age, you already know that's true because you talked to your grandparents. You already know it's true. We were already here. But why would we beat that down? And who finds pride in something like that? Why not say, well, okay, maybe that happened, but that was just a small part. We're not going to focus on that. What worry before then and how we're going to be after that? Let's focus on that. No, they deliberately keep you focused on slavery. Look what happened at the Super Bowl last night. That was a travesty, man, for these black sisters to go. What sister that was sung that song? Lift every voice and sing. Why we got to get in front of the world and sing slave songs? Songs of oppression. And they sit up there crying and getting all into it. Why we got to do that, man? At a place like that. That's not the time or the place for that. We are the ones keeping this narrative on top of us. It's not white folks, it's us. It's those that we put in position that we call leaders of us. They are our worst enemies, and I'm not going to stop until y'all understand it. As long as you are under their yoke, and they are under the yoke of the white man, we are all just slaves to the white man. Come on, my brothers and sisters, y'all gotta see this. Y'all gotta see this. We are our problem. The crab in the barrel is the real problem that we have. I'm Brother Kush. This is the Black Alpha. I'm out of here. Salam.